All right. My apologies to anybody who out there has been waiting. Zoom locked me out and made me change my password and stuff to get in. I'm not sure what happened there, but my apologies to anyone who's out there. Sorry for the delay. Zoom had locked me out and was making me create a new password and everything to get back in. All right, so this is OLC 4.0 Term 1B. We are on class 12 and working on assignments 16 and 17 and looking at adjectives today. So today's work, we're going to look at understanding the different types of adjectives, using adjectives in our writing, reviewing how to write a journal on a topic while making connections to ourselves, reviewing paragraph format, reviewing the writing stages, understanding how to ask a question and what type of answer it requires, and creating our own questions on the chapter and answering them ourselves fully. Okay. Adjectives describe nouns or pronouns, which is basically people, places, things, or ideas. Adjectives can also describe age, color, size, shape, purpose, number, origins, material, quality, or opinions. They can be incredibly specific, like a black spruce pine tree, which brings up an extremely detailed picture of the exact type of tree you're imagining. But they can also be very broad and vague, like tall, thin tree, which could describe any number of trees, such as a jack pine or a poplar or a birch. Okay, sometimes this is one of those areas that's kind of a little bit controversial for some reason. Some people think of determiners as a type of adjective, and other people think of determiners as a special category of their own that come before all the other adjectives. So I don't think it matters as long as you understand that they come before any other adjectives. So first would be articles like a, an, or the. Then you've got possessives like my, your, his, her, its, our, their, or whose. Then you have demonstrative words like this, that, these, or those. Then you have numerals, 1, 2, 3, ordinals, first, second, third, and then quantifiers, which are kind of like number amounts without being specific, like a few, another, several, much, that kind of thing. Okay. So talking about the different types of adjectives, the first one talks about is adjectives of opinion. And I was a bit confused by that because when I looked at some of their examples, they didn't seem like opinions to me. It ends up being a huge category because so many things are what are considered opinions. Later on, I saw another site that referred to them as the quality or like the attributes of something. And I think that's a little more understandable. So for example, here are some sentences where each person is giving their opinion, but it's also describing a quality. So I eat the pizza and think it's tasty. Dad ate it and thought it was terrible. Mom took a bite, but says it's greasy. John ate 4 pieces and says it's filling. All of the words in red are essentially voicing an opinion on the pizza, or they could be considered to be describing a certain quality of the pizza. Some types of adjectives probably don't need a lot of explanation. Size, remember that size can be adjectives like tall and short, but also things like wide, narrow, heavy, light. Age, that's not just about people, but also to history. Like maybe you see an ancient building or a prehistoric story. It does refer to age as well, things like young, babyish, elderly, youthful, middle-aged. Shape could include items like wavy, curvy, or pointy, or more obvious shapes like squarish, rectangular, and circular. Color. Remember that all we have like 11 basic colors. There are literally hundreds of names for colors used by artists and others in the design field. Some are just descriptive like red, violet, and others are kind of more evocative like burgundy, pine, seafoam, burnt umber. So for example, the old tall tree in the yard had leaves that turned seafoam green and silver with the sunset. And in this case, we've got some adjectives describing the tree in front of the tree, and then some adjectives describing the leaves that are coming after the leaves. Adjectives of origin. This is pretty straightforward. It's just where something came from, and it's going to have a capital letter. It's often a country, like Canada, but it may be a region like North America or Europe or a body of water. So here are some examples like Pacific salmon, Chinese vase, Swiss chocolate, German car, American cotton, European oil. Adjectives of material. That tells you what something is made of or from. So for example, if you look around at your furniture, you might find you've got a variety of materials in your house. You might have a glass window, a screen window, a stained glass window. You could have oak flooring or a wooden table, pine shelves or a mahogany wood desk. Those are all different types of wood. An aluminum can, a copper pot, a cast iron frying pan. Those are all different types of metal. A plastic bowl, a paper plate, a wooden spoon, a silicone cake pan, a ceramic jug, a crystal punch bowl, different types of materials that you might make dishes out of. You might have clothes in your closet made of cotton, canvas, knit, latex, leather, suede, fur, fleece, wool, linen, silk, or velvet. Jewelry might be made of gold, silver, bronze, pewter, or platinum, with stones of diamond, rubies, pearls, sapphires, and other precious gems. Ancient tools and building materials might be made of ivory or stone, bone or antlers, clay, reeds, sod, or thatch. There's all sorts that I haven't mentioned here, but this is just an example of the kind of words you'd be looking at. The last one is a strange category. It's called purpose adjectives, and they're almost like they're part of a noun. They describe what the object is used for or its purpose. So, for example, a picnic basket, a computer table, a winter coat, oven mitts, gardening gloves, a surgical mask, a fitted sheet, a rocking chair, or a toy boat. Some people might consider this combination of an adjective plus a noun a compound noun, and that's fine. It's kind of tricky, but in the long run, not super important which one you consider it, as long as you understand that it's describing the more basic or more general noun. Okay, moving on to our assignments. First up, we have assignment 16. This is a journal entry on the writing process. So this is talking about the stages of writing, right? In this lesson, you've looked at the writing process and what it can mean for you as a writer. Please take some time to reflect on the importance of following the writing process for you and the writing you do on a regular basis. Use the following questions or information to guide your writing. Your journal entry will be at least 6 sentences in length. Now, they're going to list a few questions here. They don't want you to answer like, here's a question, answer, here's a question, answer. They want you to kind of mush your answers together into one beautiful paragraph, okay? So comment on the use of writing process in assignments, provide some examples or anecdotes about your own writing at home or at school or at work. Which steps of the writing process, like brainstorming, revising, seem to be more important to you personally than others? Explain why you feel this way. There is no wrong answer to this one. Whatever you think is totally fine. Number 3, which steps of the writing process do you feel you need to improve on? How can your teacher help you to improve in these areas? So, journals and self-reflection. Each journal entry that we do in this course has a specific topic that it focuses on, and generally they're asking you to reflect on the skills or information that you've been practicing in the previous assignments. You need to be aware that every journal is going to be resubmitted at the end as part of your literacy portfolio. In addition, our final assignment before the literacy portfolio is a long reflection piece about your writing and your reading. So doing a thorough job in the journals now will be a big help to you later when you begin to work on assignment 43. Okay. In this entry, they specifically want you to reflect on the stages of the writing process and your ability to do the writing and the thinking activities associated with each stage. Now, if you've not been using the stages, but just writing down whatever you want and handing it in, it's going to be really hard to discuss the stages meaningfully because basically you're only doing two stages. You're doing the rough draft and publication. If that is the case, I really urge you to start using the stages, as you will find they do really dramatically improve your writing. All right, quick review of the writing process stages. Planning or brainstorming, where you're jotting down ideas or notes in point form. The rough draft, where you're turning your ideas into sentences and paragraphs. Revising, where you're improving your writing through adding, cutting, rearranging, words, details, examples, sentences, and paragraphs. Also, you're going to check to make sure it meets the assignment instructions. It's easy while writing the rough draft to remember 3 of the things in the assignment and forget the 4th one. So that's a good time to go back and make sure you put that part in. Editing, proofreading for errors in capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling, and then publishing, handing it into the teacher in the format requested, handwritten, typed, title page, whatever the assignment is requiring. Obviously, you're not always handing it into a teacher. If you're handing it into a publisher, you would check what their requirements are, because every publisher has different requirements for the writing that they accept. All right, so I want to talk about sometimes for these journals, people do the tiniest, shortest, quickest little sentences they can think of just to get the assignment over with. And that doesn't really give you very good marks. They kind of just look at the 6 sentences part without looking at the reflection part. So I wanted to kind of show you an example of 6 very short, vague sentences versus just a few longer, more detailed sentences where the person's really thinking, okay? So the short one here we have, the writing process really helps my writing. It is very helpful to me. It helps my writing. Now that I use the writing process, my writing is better. I am glad you taught us the writing process. It really helped my writing improve. Okay, so yeah, it's 6 sentences, but it's very repetitive. It's not really telling me new information. I don't really have any idea what stages helped or how it's made your writing any different. Compare that to over here where the person's done more detailed sentences and tried to really look at their own writing. The 5 steps of the writing process are all important, but I found brainstorming and writing a rough draft the most useful ones for me. I never really wrote down the ideas I brainstormed before. I just thought a little bit and tried to write, but this didn't work very well because I often forgot some of my ideas. So then I tried to write as quickly as I could so I wouldn't forget them. Now for that version, I haven't even got to 6 sentences. I could write a lot more here, but it's already longer. It's more interesting. It's not just repeating itself over and over. And I can get a clear picture of what this writer is liking or has struggled with and the kind of progress they're made. So obviously I'm going to put this in green, I guess. This is the kind of thing I'm looking for, okay? Be as detailed as you can. Now, the other thing is occasionally people summarize the writing stages, and that's where they just kind of like tell me what they are. But we've already discussed that. We already know what they are. I'm looking for your opinion on how you yourself are doing. So it's a type of self-reflection. So here's an example of a summary sentence. The planning stage is where people think of what they're going to say. They also think about what order they're going to say it in. Now that's all true, but it's not self-reflection. Here is an idea of self-reflection. I think I find the planning stage the hardest stage because I have a hard time thinking of what to write. I'm also not sure how to figure out the right order for my ideas. This can make it tough for me to get started due to how difficult this stage is for me. Now there, I know what you think about this stage, and you're telling me more about your whole writing process. So that's what I'm looking for. And again, I'm going to put it in green, just kind of point out green for go, green is good. This is what we're aiming for, okay? All right. Journals are a great place to begin using complex sentences. A lot of you already do. I'm just kind of giving a nudge to people who aren't as comfortable doing them. And the reason is journals are really asking you to answer cause and effect questions. So the first clause is often going to restate the question they're asking you, and then you're going to add some details or examples in the second part of the sentence. So for example, I think the rough draft stage is the most difficult. That's an independent clause. And then I would say because, and I would give my reason. That is your dependent clause. And the reason is because it starts with the subordinating conjunction because. Okay, remember that you can also use complex sentences to show events in time. So if you're trying to show how you've changed using the writing process from the beginning to the end, you could write things like, before I took this course, I found, or after I did a few assignments, I realized that whenever I try to do revising, I feel. So here I've put the dependent clauses in the front, and then after the comma is going to be your independent clause where you write a complete sentence. So those are just some examples in case you find complex sentences tough. You could also use complex sentences to set up contrasts between, say, two different stages. While brainstorming comes easily to me, I find it hard to, and then you talk about a different stage. Or between two different aspects of how your thinking or your abilities might have changed. Although I once found revising hard, now I feel, and then you'd explain how you feel differently. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the next assignment. The next assignment is a funny one, and it's where we're having to think of questions about what we've read and then answer our questions. And sometimes this is kind of a hard one. So I'm going to go over basic question words and then go over specifically the question words they use in the assignment. So these ones are the most basic. I think they're pretty obvious, but just in case, who is a name of a person or an organization, right? So who could be WASA or the Sioux Bulletin? What is the summary or details of what is or was or is going to be happening? When is telling you the time. Could be in hours or days, months or seasons or years. Where is the location? It could be something specific, like an address, or more general, like the hill, the river. Why is asking for a reason or an explanation for something that's happened or is going to happen. How is what way does it need to be done or was done? What are the steps or the procedures for it? So question phrases, they have kind of an implication, like when you hear them, they're kind of giving you hints about what kind of answers you want. So some phrases are just really cut and dry and factual, and they just want simple details that are stated directly in the book, right? We talked about direct information before, I believe. Where is, where is the school? When is so-and-so coming back? Who is the new teacher? What is going to happen on Friday? Again, these ones, you don't have to think very much. You just got to kind of find them right there in the book. Now, these ones are ones that are asking you to give your opinion. A lot of times, if you're giving your opinion on something that's happening in the book, you might make a connection to your life. So some examples of questions that are looking for that kind of response are, do you think? Do you believe? What is your opinion of, or what is your opinion of about? What do you feel about? Explain how you feel about. Sometimes these are the questions that students are kind of like, well, I don't feel anything. Yeah, no, I get it. We don't always have strong feelings about what we read. They're asking you to take the time to sit down and think about how you would feel about it, right? You have to kind of generate some feelings, I guess. So in the chapter, maybe there's something that you haven't thought about before, but they're saying, hey, what is your opinion? Take some time, think about this. Sometimes you have to kind of really dig deep to find a way to answer this. Now, some phrases are asking you to explain the steps or the procedures to do something. They might even be asking you the sequence of events that happened in a story. How would you explain the steps to? List the steps to accomplish. Order the events to achieve. Put in sequence the actions or the events. Describe the steps. All these kind of words, explain, list, order, sequence, describe, they're talking about step-by-step stuff. They're looking for one thing after another, right? Like how to make a cake, how to build a fire, that kind of stuff. Sometimes question phrases are asking you to look at two different people or events or books, objects or actions and compare them. And when you're doing that, you're thinking about how are they alike or similar and how are they different? And they'll use words like compare and contrast, and they'll name two things, or compare this thing versus that thing. Contrast how this person handled a certain situation versus that other person. Use a Venn diagram to describe the two characters and their similarities or differences. How are these events or people similar or different? It's the same kind of thing. Like, how are they all the same? Where are they different? Okay, so then we're at the end of lesson 5 here. We've only got 2 assignments, and then unit 1 will be completely done. So this lesson is on writing to persuade, inform, or entertain. Okay. Hopefully you've been taking some time to record the different types of reading you've been doing in your reading log. Hint, hint. If you haven't, today's a great day to write down some things you've been reading lately. You'll need that for your portfolio in the very last lesson, lesson 20. Okay, so here's assignment 17, and it's what we said, questions and answers. Now that your news report is done, it is time to see what Jimmy is up to in the novel. This time, though, the only questions you're going to have to answer are ones that you write for yourself. Your task is to read the next 2 chapters, so chapter 2 and chapter 3, and then ask questions based on the novel and then answer the questions. So you have to complete the question starters, though. That's the hard part. Sometimes people just want to make up whatever question they feel like, and that's kind of not what they're aiming for. They're giving you the beginning of a question and they want you to finish it. You need to answer using details, examples, and page numbers where possible from the text. So question number 1, you don't have to do this one. This is their example. Where did Peter want to take Jimmy in the fall? The answer, Peter wanted to take Jimmy moose hunting. And then they wrote page 13 because page 13 is where they found the answer. That's really helpful to me because then I can check and see. Okay. So I'm going to read these together and then we're going to talk piece by piece on how to answer these. Okay. Question number 2. How do you think? So they're asking you to give an opinion. You've got to decide what opinion you want to give, right? Question 3. If you were in Jimmy's shoes, what? You've got to finish it. Number 4. Do you think that Teresa, and they've left it wide open. Question 5 is the biggest one. What? That is wide open. You can ask us about anything with that question. Okay. Initially, I kind of found this assignment confusing because they hadn't finished the questions and I didn't get at first that we were supposed to finish the questions. That kind of mixed me up at first. So you got to finish the question and then you have to be able to answer your own question. If you only ask the question, you're not going to get very good marks for the assignment because you have to do both. Okay. For some people, this is a super easy assignment. For others, this is kind of really hard. So that's why we're talking about how to ask different questions because it just depends. For some people, it's a real challenge. So bad questions are those that can't be answered or at least can't yet, right? Good questions will have a specific answer that can be found in chapter 2 or 3. So here's an example of a bad question. What will happen at the end of the novel? Well, we can't really answer that because we're only reading to chapter 3, so that's not a very good question. How do you think Teresa will get Jimmy back? Well, that's another bad question because we don't really know if Jimmy will get back together with Teresa. I could say, do you think Teresa will get Jimmy back? And that'd be that'd be okay. Good questions can have a specific answer. Yep. What did this character say to another character? Why do you think this character felt sad about? And obviously you wouldn't write this character, you'd put an actual name in. All right. list the page number on your answer. When we are asking and answering questions directly from the book, there should be evidence in the text to support our answer. It can usually be found on a specific page. So going back to chapter 1, where it says, how does Jimmy feel about returning to Green Star Lake? I can find where it talks about that right on page 1. Jimmy feels nervous about returning to his home community. Then I can give my opinion if I want. I think that is because he remembers how the chief and council wanted him out of the community for breaking into the band office and trying to burn the building down. And I say that because that's what he's thinking about when he starts talking about feeling nervous. Now, sometimes you won't have a page number because it's asking you to give an opinion. So question number 2 says, like, how do you think? So it's kind of, to me, suggesting that they want you to give an opinion about something, or maybe make a prediction about something coming up. Maybe how something's going to affect another thing. I know this is a bit vague, but it's tricky to talk about. If I'm too specific, I'm just giving you the answers, right? How do you think this choice to do something is going to change something else? You could talk about someone's actions or behavior. How do you think this person's actions, and then list whatever they are, is going to affect an upcoming event or relationship? Or you could talk about ways to solve a problem. How do you think this person could get out of this situation? And now maybe you've got a whole different idea of how you could ask, how do you think? And that's fine, as long as you can give me a reasonable answer as well. So don't ask a question that you can't answer, basically. All right. I'm going to try and be more specific now, but I'm going to do it with using a popular movie so that I can be specific without giving away answers, okay? Here are some examples from the Barbie movie. I don't know if everybody's seen it. I did. I won't say I was super impressed, but I saw it. How do you think Ken might try to impress Barbie? How do you think Barbie could let Ken know she just wants to be friends? How do you think Barbie's life might change now that she has become real? And you can see for all of these, they're very opinion based. You're not going to find an answer right on a page in the chapter. Okay. So, where are some places in chapter 2 or 3 of our novel where the reader might be able to use their imagination to suggest possibilities or make predictions about upcoming character actions, feelings, and choices? Question number 3. I like this one because I think it's a great start, and I think it's one of the easier ones myself. So if you were in Jimmy's shoes, what? So first, this is asking you to imagine that you're Jimmy at some sort of certain important time. Maybe when he's got to make a big decision. Maybe when he's about to make a big mistake. Maybe when someone is treating him badly. Or maybe when something bad has just happened. Remember that you're going to have to answer the question, and when labeling the page that it found on, label where the event occurred. So if you were talking about, say in the first chapter, when the plane landed, you would find what page number the plane landed on. So you won't be able to find your opinion here because obviously your opinion isn't in the novel. Okay, here is an example. If you were in the detective's shoes, what would you do now that another murder has occurred? If you were in the girlfriend's shoes, what would you do after you found another girl's outfit at your boyfriend's house? If you were in the crook's shoes, what would you do after your partner ran away and left you in the hands of the cops? So all of these are based on an event in the chapter, but asking for your opinion. Question number 4. Do you think that Teresa, and again, it's wide open what you want to ask about. To me, the word think is a clue that it's asking you for your opinion. Maybe an opinion on what Teresa should do, or maybe an opinion on what Teresa might be feeling towards someone else. Maybe an opinion on what Teresa might be feeling towards herself, or what Teresa might think about a certain situation. She's kind of an interesting character in this story because she's there, but she often doesn't get a lot of opportunities to talk. I think there's kind of one chapter in the book where she really gets the spotlight, but a lot of times she's just kind of there in the edges. So you're going to have to kind of think about what kind of person she has seemed to be so far in this story. Gee, I was so nervous about being late that I raced through the beginning. Okay. Here are some other examples from not from our book, but just kind of generically. Do you think that the hero will stay with this girl? Do you think the mom will change how she acts towards her son? Do you think that the friend is going to change now that something terrible has happened? Do you think that the soldier is going to return to the war? Do you think that the woman is going to leave her husband? Remember that when you're giving an answer to these, you're going to need to use some clues to support your opinion. So if I wanted to support my opinion from the text is just this story. Let me say there was a question talking about, do you think somebody loves somebody or not? You can't just make a guess. You got to look at the book to have some idea of what they might be feeling. And it might be a little bit ambiguous. There might be some evidence that points in one direction, and there might be other bits of evidence that point in a different direction. So, for example, on page 15, he gives her flowers to apologize for being mean, which I think is one sign he loves her. And then on page 30, he chooses to stay and help her rather than go out drinking, which shows me that he loves her. But someone else might read the exact same chapter and get different ideas. They might say, no, I don't think he loves her because on page 20, when she says she loves him, he doesn't say anything back to her. As well, on page 25, he starts flirting with another girl the moment she walks away, which I don't think he would do if he really loved her. So now you can see both of these answers have reasons from the story for their opinion. Okay. So you would have to do that as well. You'd have to state what your reason is and what happened in the story. Could be something they did, or could be something they said that gives you that opinion. Question number 5. Question number 5 is the most open-ended question of all, and it gives a lot of choices to ask about. However, what is a very factual question, not really an opinion question. So it kind of suggests they're looking for specific information or specific details about an event in the book. So for example, what happened when or after or before? What did this person want this other person to do about the situation? Or what was going on at the name of a certain place? What was the plan to solve this problem? So at that point, if you finish those, you'd be finished A16 and A17. We've got just enough time. I wonder if we've got time to, might go on to the next one since we've got a little bit of extra time here. So anyone have any questions before I move on? I know I kind of was talking pretty quickly during that. I got a little nervous since things went so badly there at the start. Okay. All right, so I'm going to skip over that. Adjectives. All right, I'm going to skip over the adjectives too. I'm going to go over to where does it talk about our question? Okay. This is our very last assignment for lesson 5, and it's a journal entry about your progress. Now, I wanted to kind of highlight this word because sometimes what has happened is I've had people get a little bit confused because progress looks a little bit like the other word, process. It's only one letter different. So we did a journal about process, which was on the writing stages. But this one, is about your progress. There is some similarity, because some people, when they talked about the writing stages, they talked about their progress. But here you could talk about your progress in different areas, maybe about reading, maybe about your attitude about the course. So I'm going to read the assignment now. It says, well done. You have made it to the end of Unit 1. Your final assignment for this unit will be write a journal entry about the progress you have made so far. Are there skills that you are becoming more comfortable with? Have you started to enjoy certain literary activities that you did not like before? As you write, consider if you're using the 7 grandfather teachings so far in this course. Are you having any struggles with the course? And which, if any, of the 7 teachings you are relying on most? Feel free to share any other thoughts you might have, and then your piece here will be a paragraph containing at least 6 sentences. For journals, you don't need to hand in the rough copy, just hand in the original or just hand in your revised, however you do it, okay? So here are some of the reading skills we've worked on so far in the unit. We've used reading strategies like asking questions, making connections, finding the main idea and supporting details, activating background knowledge, prioritizing and summarizing, making inferences. We've also read chapters in the novel, we've read news articles, song lyrics, and we've shown our understanding of a text for retelling. When we were retelling the chapter in a news article, we were showing what we understood. So have you made any progress in any of those skills? Maybe understanding formats better or reading these formats with more comprehension, understanding the skills better, or using these skills better while reading. Writing skills, we've talked about a little bit, the stages of writing. Writing to answer a prompt, understanding and applying conventions like spelling, punctuation, etc. Understanding how to use the parts of a sentence to write a good sentence. Understanding parts of speech, writing in a paragraph format. So if you made progress on any of those areas, you could write about that as well. Quick review of the 7 grandfather teachings. Love, respect, bravery, truth, honesty, humility, and wisdom. I want to point out, I'm aware not everybody is traditional, but these values are pretty much cross-cultural, and they show up in many religions, philosophies, and even laws around the world. For example, companies that are lying to consumers can be prosecuted in court. People lying in court is called perjury. People lying about accidents or money is called fraud. So many of these virtues are still valued and followed and even enforced in our laws. So which of these grandfather teachings did you find helpful for this course? There are all sorts of YouTube videos on the grandfather teachings. If you need some ideas to kind of get your brainstorming started, think about how you may have used some of these to get the work done. A lot of times when we're looking at these, we're talking about whether your attitude about yourself or about the work that needs to be done or about your abilities, that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to like encourage people to think a certain way. I want you to have your own ideas there. The hard part about this journal is you need to cover multiple topics in one journal. You've got to talk about your progress in literacy skills, the grandfather teachings, and any problems or any victories about the course you want to share. So the key to all that is going to be making your opening topic sentence broad enough or like general enough that you could easily cover all the subtopics in this paragraph. Don't forget that just like every other assignment, we're going to use the hamburger format where we have a topic sentence, details or body details in the middle, and then a closing or what they call a clincher sentence, okay? Usually the middle is going to have at least 3 to 5 good sentences that give examples or provide more details. And you're going to follow this as well, okay? Some example of really broad or general opening sentences are things like, I feel like I've made a lot of progress over the time span of this unit. Or, using the grandfather teachings and their virtues has been a key factor in improving my literacy skills during this unit. Or you could even say, I am having trouble seeing my progress over the length of this unit, but I am hopeful this will change over the rest of this course. Remember, we're only at the very beginning of the course. There's still a lot more to come. So don't feel discouraged if you feel like, oh, I don't feel like my writing skills have changed that much. Um, Remember that a good paragraph has a closing sentence. I think we talked about this the other day, where I was saying if I was having a conversation with somebody, I wouldn't just take off in the middle and not say goodbye, right? I would say something. It's kind of rude not to. In the same way, when you're writing a paragraph, the closing sentence is kind of our way of saying goodbye. We echo or we restate the opening sentence. It might draw an overall conclusion. You might share your feelings on the topic, but there should be some sort of closing sentence, okay? We also talked earlier today about 6 short, simple sentences versus 6 longer, compound or complex sentences. I really encourage you to go for the more long sentences because you can just give so much more information. All right, and okay. This one I was talking about health progress because again, I didn't want to give away all the answers. Sorry, my voice is beginning to go near the end here. Okay, 7 short sentences. I have made a lot of progress on my journey towards health. I have tried to develop the habit of daily movement. I try to only eat at meal times. As well, I am trying to get at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep at night. I call my friends and family on a weekly basis to talk. These things take bravery to do. I am trying to treat myself with the same love I show others. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, right? It's legitimate. It's related to the topic. It's just a little tiny bit short, even though it is 7 sentences. So here is the longer version, and then I will let us close here. I feel I've made a lot of progress on my journey towards better health with the help of the teachings on love and bravery. First, I have tried to develop the habit of daily movement, and I have begun tracking my daily steps. Next, I have been making a real effort to eat only at scheduled meal times rather than snacking throughout the day like I used to. As well, I am trying to get at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep at night, although I have some difficulty with getting to bed on time. I hate talking on the phone, but I get up my courage and reach out to friends and family on a weekly basis to talk. We usually think of love as an emotion towards others, but I have realized I must treat myself with love in order to care about others effectively. So that would be me talking about the grandfather teachings. Taking all these small actions towards physical and mental health on a daily and weekly basis is treating myself with the same love I try to show others. And if you look at the difference here for how short this little paragraph is compared to this paragraph, if you were marking, you could see obviously this one that has so much more details is probably going to get a better mark than this one that is very, very short. And at that point, yay, celebrate. Once you're done assignment 18, you are finished unit 1. Tomorrow, we will talk about unit 2. I apologize so much for the confusion at the beginning. Hopefully by tomorrow, we've got that worked out, and I hope I will see people tomorrow. Are there any questions before I leave and let our next speaker on? Okay. Okay. Talk to you tomorrow then.